Hi friends, I'm Cassie.
I'm Sarah.
And we are A Shire Thing.
So today's video, we're going to continue with the writing process series that we're going to be working on. If you missed it before, we'll link it down below. We did one about inspiration and the outlining process, and how we kind of go about that a little differently.
Absolutely.
Or how it changes between works. Today, we're going to be talking about the drafting process.
Yes.
So you have your inspiration, you have your outline, and I'll quote Jenna Marissa here, right? You have your outline, right? I'm going to link her down below too. You should watch her writing videos because she's phenomenal.
She's amazing.
So we're going to talk about the drafting process, how to get started, how we get started.
How you get those words on the page. So, do you have a specific place that you write?
Ooh, that's a good question. So it used to be in bed. That's very comfy. I have a beautiful antique desk from when I had a photography studio, but my husband's computer has claimed that desk. So I don't have a desk to write at. So I write on the couch. I get really comfortable. I make sure I've got pillows at my back because I tend to lean or hunch or my back dislikes when I go on a writing rampage because I'm in all these awful positions. But I love the couch. You know, I have good natural light coming in. I can put on my headphones. My son can be doing whatever he's doing with Dad when he's home. What about you? Where's your writing spot?
So I kind of have two writing spots. So three. So one is here in this room. This is kind of our guest room / my office. So the desk that our camera is currently sitting on is my writing desk. And then also I write in bed sometimes. That's another difference between our writing process. Sarah is usually writing in the middle of the day. I am usually writing late at night.
I do write at night sometimes too. It really depends. But my husband works second shift. So he wakes up at 10 o'clock. I say, good morning, nice to see you, put on my headphones, and I'm going to be writing until you leave for work. We homeschool our son. So we have to, tap out like I did homeschooling from 6 until 10, and now it's your turn.
Yeah, my husband also works second shift, but I work day shift, so I can't write well.
Exactly.
But so I am usually writing late at night. So sometimes I write in bed just to kind of get it out and then go to sleep right after that. And then also I will write downstairs, and how I kind of decide if I'm writing up here or downstairs depends on if my kid is asleep or not. So if my kid is not asleep, then I'm writing downstairs where he can't hear me because he has a lot of difficulty falling asleep. Anyway, I don't want to be keeping him up by tapping away. If he is asleep, then I'll write up here because it's closer to the kitchen for drinks and snacks, and it's closer to bed, and I won't be tempted by the Xbox up here. Whereas downstairs, the Xbox is like, Cassie,
can't hear you.
Nope, la 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 la.
I do have to add one to mine because I travel quite a bit. So I take my laptop with me, and this recently happened. I was in Philadelphia, and I have my laptop with me, and there was the last day we were there, we went for a long weekend, so it was very much every day we got up, we went to a museum, we did things, plus the 6 hours of driving. On the last day, it was before we were leaving, they were going to one more museum, and I said, I love you all so much.
Goodbye.
I would like to sit in the hotel and write for a little bit, and just get my introvert time, and I really got in the mood for it, and I wrote 2 chapters while they were gone. It felt really, really great. So that's why I love writing on a laptop, because I take it with me everywhere.
I'll kind of jump onto that. When we went to New York over Christmas time, I brought my laptop with me, and I wrote while we were driving because we listened to music.
You weren't driving.
I wasn't driving.
Don't drive and
I was a passenger. But a lot of times when we're on long drives, my husband doesn't especially appreciate it if I'm on my phone because he's having to pay attention to the road, and I'm just watching videos. And so he likes that to be together time, but also when it's a 4-hour drive, you don't necessarily need 4 hours of together time, or after an hour you run out. And we found that he didn't mind it one bit if I was writing during that time.
Great.
So I was writing, and then if I laughed or something, he'd be like, what's going on? And he'd ask me, or I'd be like, hey, hon, what if I did blah, blah, blah? Do you think that would be good? And he'd be like, oh, yeah. And then I'd continue writing.
I love that.
So
that's cute.
I'm taking it every road trip ever.
Yes.
Now. I'm writing on every road trip. And I didn't get motion sick.
That's
a lot of times I
fantastic.
usually get motion sick if I'm like on my phone or
Yeah.
reading. But writing, I didn't get motion sick. Love it.
Yay!
Okay, so before you sit down to write, what do you do? Do you go over what you're working towards? What is your actual I am writing kind of process?
So generally, well, after the inspiration process and just trying to write out as much as I can, like idea wise and sketching things and collecting images, I'll sit down and I'll try and think of where to start. I know where the story is going to go because I outlined. Usually, there was one where I pantsed it. I don't recommend it. Pantsing it means you go by the seat of your pants.
Yep.
So I will sit down and try and think of where do I want this story to start. And I'll just start writing. And I'll just try and let it flow. Sometimes I have very specific scenes in mind when I'm starting, especially at the beginning. If there's a very, very big visual that is stuck in my brain from the inspiration process, I'll sit down and I'll write that first.
Yep.
Sometimes I write the end, but I'll generally, with the different works in progresses, it's been, where do I want this to start? And I just start writing. I'm not worried about prose at that point. I'm not worried about perfection. I'm just getting the basic foundation
get it on the
page. Like building a house. Get the foundation down first. You have your blueprints, and you have to, for me, I start with just getting it down. And then I go from there, but we'll talk about that in a second. So what about you, when you're first sitting down?
So when I'm first sitting down, I tend to think about where am I going? And so I find if I don't have a clear goal in mind, I have a difficult time writing.
Yeah.
So if I don't know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish in the scene, then I just kind of freeze up. So before I ever write, I will review the last bit that I just wrote to try to keep that voice consistent throughout. And then I will make sure that I have a very clear goal in mind before I write. And a lot of times I will do a little bit of revision on the previous section.
I do that too,
to kind of get myself in the groove before I then go and write.
I'll do that too. And once I have a chunk of chapters done, I'll go back and that's when I start kind of building up on it. I make a pass. I try and build up a little bit. And this is not like super editing where I get the Apple Pencil out and things like that. It's just building off of what I already have and then moving on and checking things like foreshadowing. And sometimes I do it on accident and I'll reread it and be like, ooh, I know what's coming and that was really good. I didn't mean to do that, but oh no, of course I meant to do that.
Do you have anything else that you want to say about the drafting process and how that works out for you?
Yeah, I will mention too that this is kind of our processes and everybody kind of has their own.
Absolutely.
So you're welcome to try the way we do it. But for me, especially with dialogue and things like that, a lot of the times I won't even write tags or names when I'm first structuring a conversation. When I do worry about that, it tends to be really stiff at first. So if I just go through and write everything that they're saying, like paragraphs, so I know that we're changing faces and things like that. And then I go back and revise it later on. We have a friend who, when he sits down to write, it's very much like he is editing as he writes.
Yes.
So that can slow down the process, which is just fine because it's one less pass he'll have to make later.
Absolutely.
So for me, I kind of speed write. I get through it. I do tend to jump around a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If there's a scene I'm really, really feeling that day, I'll go in and I'll write it, especially if I heard a song in the car or something like that. In a previous video, I talked about how important music is for me in my writing. I'll add it to the playlist and then go write the scene to that song because I could envision it the whole time. And right now with the Maze book, I had a draft done. And what I thought I had to do is just go in and revise, and then I decided to do a separate timeline. So I had to write another half of a novel, and I'm working on that now. And I have not done this on purpose, but I'm realizing it as I'm looking. The chapters that I saved for last with this are really sad and really dark. So that's those are the only types of scenes I have left to write. So what I'm doing with this, because that gets really heavy.
I mean, in fairness, with Maze book, you probably have 10 of those really intense chapters.
There's the majority of the book is
that's what I mean,
and dark and sad. I mean, it's an adult, dark, dystopian sci-fi.
Yeah, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
in.
So so I'm saving these for last, not on purpose, but what I'm doing now is I'll work on one of these scenes, and when I feel myself lowering down, especially up here in New England,
Oh yeah, it's
during
dark.
the winter, it's dark. I have SAD, the seasonal seasonal depression, like a minor version of that. So when I feel myself kind of getting too low, I'll take a break, I'll put on a good song. And there are a couple of happy scenes.
Yes.
So I'll go read those and revise
Revise.
them for a little bit and then go back to the really dark places. So I do tend to jump around in that way. When I revise, which we'll go over in another video, I try and do it more chronologically because
you
I need
can
to
make
see
sure
the
there's
flow. I'll do a read through first
continuity.
and make minor notes and then go through and really and I'll show some of my editing pages too when we do this video because I cross out paragraphs or I'll circle. I write in the margins. It is messy looking. My goodness. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Well,
yours?
I just tend to write straight through.
That's right.
Continuity. I don't really skip around because I have a few things that I've made changes to in the past. And so when I make a change, I just kind of from there forward make the change and write it in, and then second pass I'll go back in and add it. But I find, or at least I worry, that if I jump ahead, I'm going to not know about things that I'm incorporating yet.
Right.
And so they're not going to be there because I wrote it before I had incorporated them.
Right.
If that makes sense. So I will have write down little snippets if they come into my brain to save. And I'll stick them in their correct chapter in Scrivener. But I tend to just write chronologically, which sometimes I feel like stops me. Because if I don't know exactly the little thing that's coming next, I kind of freeze up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so that's our writing process. That's how we actually get the words on the page. I will say also, sometimes I need to meditate beforehand.
Yeah.
And kind of get myself in character, if you will. And when you were speaking about dialogue, it also reminded me that I will frequently say conversations out loud to see if they flow.
I like that.
And if a character has an accent, I have a character that has an accent, and so I will read her dialogue aloud, or I will say it aloud and then type what I heard.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it's easier for me to, like my character, she talks like this, and it's a little easier when I'm like, well, ain't you gonna do that?
Darling?
Yeah, so then I could be like, well, ain't you gonna do that, darling? And it makes you hear it in your brain a little easier.
Absolutely.
So, and I was talking with Sarah about this the other night. I think in terms of OOTS, which is a thing from the Meisner method in theater, and it is objective, obstacle, tactic. And so I think about what each of my characters' objectives are, what their current obstacles are, and what tactics they're going to use to get what they want. They might fail, but that's what they're going to try. Okay, I think we're actually done now.
I think so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you liked this video, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. We would greatly appreciate it.
Leave a comment below if your writing process kind of ties in with ours, or if you do something completely different. We'd love to open the conversation.
Absolutely.
Be sure to hit subscribe and ring that little bell if you want to see as soon as we upload.
Yep. We upload once a week, so we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Come in closer and turn towards me. Sorry. So bossy. Bossy. And you're losing your pillow again. Shoo, words that almost just came out of my mouth while we recording. We're north of Boston, so we have a favorite. I feel like, okay. No, I had my legs crossed because I was comfy, but really far away. No comfiness. None. Good deal? Good deal. Come in a little closer. You're just leaning out of the frame. Come a little bit closer, you're my kind of friend. So his pace is a little bit slower when it comes to finishing a chapter. Because, sorry, I was just trying to get the camera to focus again. Oh. You looked a little blurry to me, so I was... Because I moved. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. I'm just going over my notes, which are like 4 words. Like, that was
You're like, this
helpful.
isn't helpful.
Actually, it didn't help my brain at all. Okay.